I think President Biden's event with President Clinton and President Obama was about unifying the Democratic Party, showing that this Democratic Party is going to be energized and inspired and is going to be prepared to win in 2024.
Do you expect to see those former presidents out on the campaign trail routinely?
I think so, but not to show force, but more to show unity of purpose, to show defense of democracy.
Presidents Obama and Clinton will be staying on the campaign trail to give a boost to President Biden after their glitzy $25 million fundraiser last week. And top Democrats say this is just meant to show party unity and has nothing to do with Biden's struggling poll numbers. Grace Curley hosts the Grace Curley Show, and she joins me now. Grace, good morning to you. It's great to see you again. What do you think about this? Do you think this joining of forces is really all about party unity?
In a weird way, Carly, I kind of do. I think they're very united right now in their desperation. When I saw this charity event, I'm sorry, not charity event, this fundraiser, and you just mentioned $25 million. I thought, yeah, they're desperate. They want to make money. I get that. It's an election season. But to do this while New York is reeling from the murder of Officer Jonathan Diller, to have this event and not realize how bad it looks from a visual standpoint, it shows that they are united behind Joe Biden because they realize he's floundering. And so, yeah, they made $25 million. But at what cost? Because a lot of Americans aren't going to get that out of their heads, that while a former president is mourning with the family of Officer Jonathan Diller, the other president's putting on Ray-Bans and making jokes while Stephen Colbert hosts this A-list fundraiser. It's absolutely ridiculous. And in a way, I do think they're unified. They're unified against behind this person who is just completely inept, and he can't make any headway.
Yeah, the $25 million, you said it right. It does come at a cost when it comes to optics and just morally, the difference in the two events. No matter what your politics, I'm sure many people would agree that former President Trump was at the right place at the right time. However, when you do bring up the money, $25 million is a lot. And on the other side of the aisle, Republicans are struggling with fundraising. Why is that?
I think it's such a tricky situation right now. A lot of people, I think, when they see Trump's legal battles, maybe they are nervous to give. But I think that a lot of Republicans right now are probably a little tired. I'm hoping that getting closer to the actual election day, that fundraising does pick up. But yeah, he's got to get a message out there to people that this is a battle that we need to win.
Yeah, well, you just listened to Congressman Ro Khanna. He was on Fox News Sunday with Shannon Bream yesterday. Here's a little bit more of what he had to say about President Biden and the possibility of his poll numbers improving.
I think people realize that there's a crisis. They see images of people dying, and they want the war to end. They want Israel to be secure, but they also want Palestinian lives not to be lost. And I think once the war comes to an end under the president's leadership, his numbers will improve, just like his numbers have bounced back on the economy.
So that was him talking about the Israel-Hamas war, saying his poll numbers will improve if the war ends. And he also said that the president's poll numbers have improved on the economy. I haven't quite seen that just yet. But the overall sense that we're getting is that Democrats feel like there's more time on the clock and things will get better.
Yeah, I found this comment so weird, Carly, because there's a lot of unknown variables when it comes to a war. We obviously all want it to end as quickly as possible, but I don't know if I would be hanging my hopes on poll numbers on a war ending. And also, when you look at the Israel-Hamas war, there's a lot of division in the Democrat Party. So I'm not sure that when this war does end, that all of a sudden there's going to be this unity in the Democrat Party about how it ended or about how Joe Biden handled it. You have the far left progressives who aren't happy. They don't feel he's being anti-Israel enough. And then you have the moderates who don't feel as though Joe Biden is supporting our longest ally in the Middle East. And so I'm not sure how this war ending is going to leave suddenly the entire Democrat Party happy. I don't see that situation arising.
Yeah, that's right. And the president just approved more weapons to Israel, which is going to enrage the far left side of his party. Grace, thank you so much for joining us. As always, have a great day.
Do we regret it? Trump pundits are just hailing this new poll by Bloomberg, which shows that Joe Biden is catching up with Donald Trump in 3 crucial swing states, 45-45 in Pennsylvania and Michigan, and Biden ahead 46-45 in Wisconsin. Now, we're getting a lot of like, I told you so, it was only going to take some time, people will come to their senses from people who are not big fans of the former president, but these are statistical times, which means that either Trump or Biden could be up by a couple of points. So I wonder if you think this is being just a tad overplayed.
Well, it's interesting here, Howie, because the polls are going to go in many different directions, and we're going to see a lot of tumult, and we'll probably see a lot of change. The only thing that matters is how someone actually votes when they either mail in their ballot in a lot of these particularly Democrat-heavy states, or when they're in the polling booth, when they're facing their conscience. I think that we're going to see a big shift. I don't think this is decisive. You also see polls that show that Trump still has a national lead. The Real Clear Politics average still has him up almost 2%.
Any poll is a snapshot, and these things bounce around. Now, very big deal made by CNN, MSNBC, and others about this fundraiser the other night, Obama, Clinton, and Joe Biden. And the New York Times had an interrogation by Stephen Colbert. But the New York Times had a whole piece saying, well, yeah, Biden's not as popular as the other two, but that's because we're in a much more polarizing era. Do you buy that?
No, he's not as popular as the other two because he's not as popular as the other two. And neither is his vice president. You know, Vice President Biden didn't really move the needle. It was President Obama who was the rock star of the administration. But the problem for President Biden is his vice president pulls him down, and by contrast, he just doesn't have the star power, certainly of Obama, but also, to some degree, President Clinton as well. So I don't know if optically this was the best look for the president. I know it's a big cash grab. I don't know if cash is enough to meaningfully move the needle where the Biden camp wants it right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, Biden's never been as much of an orator as the other 2 Democrats we're talking about. So before we go, what is your take on the revolt of the MSNBC liberals against NBC's hiring Ronna McDaniel, ripping the bosses on the air and forcing her to get fired within 4 days despite her big fat contract?
I think the bosses there are soft. I think the lunatics are running the asylum. I think they should all focus on their respective shows. And, you know, NBC was in the right wanting to find a proliferation of voices before the conventions and before the actual election. And, you know, Ronna McDaniel obviously would have been a great choice because she is polarizing. That means people would have tuned in to either grudge watch her or possibly agree with her.
It just is amazing the way in which the NBC caved on this and ultimately had no choice. I think it's been an embarrassing episode all around. Kennedy, great to see you. Thanks so much.